How's it going, everyone? There at the Farmstead Way. We're going to try to film this because the wind is crazy outside. And today I want to talk about something that has been very, I wouldn't say heavy on my mind, just something I've been thinking about lately. And that is alcohol. The title of this video is called, Can There Be Balance with the Bottle? Now, I know a lot of people out there throughout all of history have struggled with alcoholism. I've had struggles with it myself. Both sides of my family have struggled with it. And it's something I want to talk about because it seems there's a strange dichotomy with whiskey, beer, other sort of alcohols that I really don't think get covered a whole lot. I hate being drunk. I absolutely hate it. I hate feeling miserable. I hate feeling nauseous. I hate the pounding headache. I hate feeling super sleepy at the end of the day. But I love a good bourbon. I love the smell, the taste. I love going to distilleries. The craftsmanship, the fellowship that you can have that comes from people sitting down and responsibly enjoying something that is, at least with this, very uniquely American. And in this glass right here has been the elixir for many people to ruin their lives or to change them. Some of the best conversations I've ever had that have impacted me for the better have been over a glass of good whiskey. And also a lot of people have ruined their lives with this brown liquid that I'm sloshing around in this little glass. And this video is me more asking you guys on YouTube, what do you think about alcohol? Now the Bible says, be ye not taken with too much wine. And there's a bunch of stuff in there that talks about not being a wine bibber and avoiding drunkenness, and obviously drunkenness being a big issue with certain people, such as Moses. Not Moses, wow. Noah. After the whole ark incident, he got drunk and his sons had to carry him out of his tent naked. And then you have passages of scripture that says, give a man strong drink if he has sorrow of heart, that he may forget his sorrows. So it's like, where's the balance? Because there's certain people that can enjoy a glass of whiskey and have it not ruin their lives. And there's some people that get around people that are drinking and they turn into a totally different person. And if you're all wondering, I am enjoying a glass of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. And even stuff like that, it's like, where's the difference? Because most of the people that go way too hard in the paint with whiskey, they don't care what it is. They get some rot gut, bottom shelf stuff, and they start chugging. You hear stories from like Motley Crue back in the 80s where they're drinking 2 gallons of vodka a day. Versus the guy that's like, oh, this has got a nice, this has a little bit more of a drier finish. There's brighter oak and cherry notes. Whiskey definitely tastes different outside. Nice finish. It's nice and smooth going down. It doesn't, okay. Versus the people that just fill shot glasses and chug this stuff. I started getting into whiskey a couple years ago, and we went to distilleries, and it's the places are cool, and the craftsmanship and the people that take the time to make this stuff taste a certain way and to age it, and they have different aging techniques and distilling techniques. It's an art and it's a craft, and I love that. And on the flip side, there was a point in time where I was going a little too crazy with this. I was drinking every single day. And you take something that's supposed to be an enjoyable, pleasurable hobby, and you can ruin it by too much of a good thing. I was drinking 2 to 3, and they weren't Glencairn glasses like this. It was rocks glasses of whiskey, and I would, have a hard time staying awake at night. I would fall asleep when I was talking to my wife, just a little too buzzed every night. And my wife said, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's it. Through the week, you are not allowed to have any alcohol. If we're having a really good hearty meal, I'll have one nice beer poured in a glass because it just feels hobbitish to me. When you have a good hearty stew and a nice good mug of ale, it just goes together. But I had to cut back on the whiskey. And in my family, both sides, my mom and my dad's side, have had to cut back on it, and they've had to limit themselves. My grandfather had to totally cut off of it, and I always remember him drinking O'Doul's because he had a real big problem with alcohol. Same thing with other family members of mine. They have a big problem with alcohol, and I think the main thing is what are you using it for? Now, let's not kid ourselves. The chemical alcohol does something to your brain to relax you. It slows your senses. It dulls you down. It does. But are you trying to use that effect to cover up negative emotions, memories, as a way to drown out the way you feel about certain things going on in your life, as a way to try to erase things in your mind, to forget certain things, to numb the pain of something? I enjoy good whiskey because I like good whiskey. I don't try to use whiskey to blot out traumas from the past. I don't try to use whiskey to make myself feel better about myself. I don't need it to get through the day because my life is so miserable. I enjoy good whiskey because it tastes good, because it makes me think of the hard men that built this nation, that wanted to put some craftsmanship into something. Now, I know whiskey hasn't always been viewed as that, and I know kind of as of the past maybe 10 years, bourbon especially has made a big comeback, and I'm glad that it's made the comeback that it has, in the way that it has. People are collecting whiskey. They're tasting it. They're not just shooting it and trying to get as much of it down the hatch as possible. They're interested in the distillers. They are interested in the craftsmanship, in the people that make this. They go down to Kentucky and they view the beautiful land in which these grains and this water and these barrels were taken from. They're doing tastings to see the differences between the different flavor profiles, and they're not just cowboying it down and shooting whiskey. Because let's be honest, alcohol will make you act like an absolute fool. And there's nothing that's more embarrassing than being around someone who should know better that is just absolutely smashed. And every once in a while, people can cut loose and, you drink a little too much, you get a little too carried away. But it's like the people that's all the time, as soon as you give them a drink, they just start chugging. Or they start doing shots, and they do double shots, and they don't care what it tastes like. And you're just like, what are you doing? What's the point? When I think of whiskey, I think of a nice tavern. And in my mind, my dream tavern has, Irish music playing in it, or just chill music in the background. You have a bartender that's very knowledgeable in the spirits, the proofs. One of the fondest memories I have of going to a bar was actually two. This bar, and it's just in this old building, and it's this big brick building. And I told the bartender just the things I was wanting to get out of a whiskey, and I think he pulled up, it was a version of this. I said I want a barrel proof. It's got a nice warm toasty flavor to it, and he pulled out like a Barrel Select Elijah Craig barrel strength, or what do they call it, cask strength barrel proof. And he poured himself a glass too, and he didn't just like shoot it. He poured him just a little bit, got a good nose on it, smelled it, took a little sip. So that way, when a customer would come in and want to have a whiskey with that flavor, he would know. Versus let's do some shots, I want to get hammered, those people. And yes, I have a very accurate, dumb blonde voice. So yeah, I can do that. Let's do some shots, I want some tequila. Ugh. Me being goofy. So what are your thoughts on it? I love whiskey, and I've read a bunch of books on it, and it's a shame that we had to have something like Prohibition because people were getting obnoxious with it. But to be fair, I do not think this culture of craft whiskey and people doing tastings, and I think that's a modern invention. I really don't think that people in 1897, when the Bottled and Bond Act was passed, people were sniffing whiskeys and people were just downing it. And then you had Prohibition, and I think it's a shame that it had to happen, but people were getting way too carried away with it. People were drinking way too much, and they were not taking care of their responsibilities at home. But do you think that sorry, the wind's obnoxious, but do you think that this can be enjoyed responsibly, or do you think it needs to be avoided like the plague? I know I'm going to get mixed results on this. There's going to be people that come on here and say that I quit drinking 20 years ago, and I'm glad that I did. And there's going to be some people on here that say, I love Elijah Craig. I love being able to sit down with my mates and enjoy a good whiskey. A good whiskey when the wind's not blowing like crazy, at least. Thank you. Anyway, I don't know who I'm yelling at. And no, I'm not drunk. I'm just being goofy. What do you think? Can you enjoy a good spirit without taking it too far, or do you need to avoid it? I love Jesus and I love bourbon. I'm sure people are going to freak out about that, but if you're a Christian, what are your stances on alcohol? I know a lot of people that are in Orthodox and Catholic churches, they can enjoy whiskey and they can moderate themselves. And I know there's some people that as soon as someone breaks open a case of Busch Light or Keystone Light, they literally see how high they can stack the cans. It's like, what's the point at that point? You're just acting like an idiot. So can there be balance with the bottle? And I was just talking about this with my wife when it comes to like pornography and stuff. Because I still deal with temptation on a daily basis. And when I first was going into my recovery, when it came to porn, I had covenant eyes on my phone. I had full accountability. I still have full accountability. But we did my best to remove any temptation. And I needed that. But I don't think it really is good for your mind. Because what's better? To have no access to the thing that tempts you, with a full heart of a desire for what you are being tempted by, versus full access to whatever you want with no restrictions, but with no desire in your heart to fulfill those desires. Same thing with whiskey. Is it better to totally abstain from alcohol when you're an alcoholic? And like I said, sometimes you have to be that way. Is it totally better to abstain from alcohol when you really want to have a nice glass of spirits? Or is it better to have full access to a whole bottle that could put me in the hospital if I started chugging this, but with the mature responsibility mindset to be like, I'm gonna enjoy my glass of whiskey, and when my glass of whiskey is done, I'm done, because I'm not gonna be an idiot, and I wanna set a good example. Because I got 2 kids, and based on my family tradition of alcohol, it can get really bad for them, but I want them to be raised around a man that can take a glass of whiskey, enjoy it responsibly, and put the bottle down when he is starting to feel a little tipsy, and know that, nope, I'm done. Because I didn't see that growing up. It was just pedal to the metal until you literally can't hold a bottle anymore. Is that a little honeybee? I think it is. Huh. Spring's definitely in the air, people. As you can tell by the giant storm front that's about to push through, trying to ruin my video. But whatever. I think I've gone on quite long enough. So, if you enjoy a glass of whiskey, here's to you. If you have to stay away from this stuff, let me know your thoughts on it. Tell me your stories. Tell me your temptations. I'd love to talk to you in the comment section. Can there be balance with the bottle? I don't know. I try to find that balance every time I pick up a glass, because I know that this brown elixir can destroy a man's life, but I also know that this stuff can save one too, in the right context. So this is Larry with the Farmstead Way. You all have a good evening, and you all take it easy, because my next week is going to be absolutely crazy with work. So I'm going to enjoy this day. I'm going to enjoy my whiskey. God bless you all. Take it easy.